Single Bound is a new podcast hosted by married couple Amy and Logan as they review single issues of comics. And if the title makes you think of Superman, you're not alone, as the Man of Steel is a regular topic of discussion. Listen and subscribe to Single Bound on Spotify and YouTube. Ever wonder what would happen if a person who knew barely anything about comics decided to absorb hundreds of Superman stories? Robbo is that kind of person, and that's exactly what he's doing on a new show called This Podcast Will Never Die. Listen and subscribe today. Fat Moose Comics, established in 1982, is New Jersey's best and oldest comic book store. Moose has that rare old-school comic shop feel and camaraderie, yet also remains a welcoming space for new fans. Visit them in Whippany or reach out via the Fat Moose Comics Facebook page. In the 1950s, George Reeves embodied the Man of Steel in Superman's first television adaptation, from its gritty black and white beginnings to the kid-friendly color years. To this day, an entire generation reveres George as their Superman, while for others, the show remains an overlooked, underrated chapter in the character's history. On this podcast, we bring everyone together as we break down each episode of Adventures of Superman, examining it within the context of the series itself, as well as the larger Superman mythology. Welcome to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss Season 5, Episode 7, Money to Burn, is the host of It All Comes Back to Superman Series 2, returning guest, Michael Bailey. Welcome back.
I was thinking of trying to come up with really bad dad jokes to open the episode with, to kind of go with what happens in this episode, but I just didn't have, I didn't have the energy for it. But
yeah, you got to throw in some puns, just like our pal Torch there.
Yeah, no. Thank you for having me. I have not. The back end of this series is a big blind spot for me. So all three episodes you've invited me on are the first times I've actually seen any of them. So it's been a journey.
So that's one of the things I was going to ask you about. So these that we're discussing, because you're joining me for this one, obviously you'll be here next week, and then you'll be back for another episode in the final season. I know you said you're watching those for the first time. Had you seen many, if any, of the other color episodes, or is it really that big of a gap where you haven't?
Well, the thing is it's not that big of a gap because there's less of them. I mean, there's pretty much literally as many color episodes over 4 seasons as 2 seasons of the black and white stuff. So that's kind of weird on one level, but a lot of the color episodes that I am familiar with, because I guess maybe I should go through my DVDs to see if I've got the dreaded DVD rot.
The rot.
On that, I am holding out hope for a Blu-ray release at some point. And maybe to clean some of these up, please, because they're looking kind of rough, even in digital form. But a lot of the color ones that I've seen come from, and I think I talked about this in the first time I was on the show, for 1988, 1989, and 1990, I would spend Thanksgiving watching WOR out of New York, and they had Jack Larson introducing a handful of episodes in a marathon. And so that's where the color ones really come in for me. So a lot of these, especially seasons 5 and 6, are a pretty big blind spot for me.
Okay, gotcha. Well, then let me ask this question. Based on the viewing you have done for me, for our audience, for purposes of these podcast discussions, do you feel more or less inspired to dive into the rest?
You know, it's so hard because we want to be positive, and we're in such a glowing atmosphere right now with Superman. There is so much love for this character, even with all of the negative comments that I'm seeing on social media. I have not experienced this much love for this character ever in my entire life. It's been a little weird on that level because I'm not used to it. So I don't want to come off as being overly negative, but I was recently talking about episodes of Superboy with Rob O'Connor, so I feel like I paid my dues enough to be able to say these are not for me as a Superman fan. these definitely feel like Silver Age stories, and some Silver Age stories are amazing, and some are the one we're going to be talking about next week. So it, I'm not like at some point I will sit down and watch all of them, but I'm not going to binge them.
Don't binge them. As someone who has done a little bit of binging in the process of doing this podcast, don't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve the episodes well. I've definitely had much better experiences when I'm able to split them up. I get a lot more out of them than when I just go back to back to back, because especially when we're talking about these largely generic gangsters that we perpetually cycle through, it just does get a little bit grating after a while. So yeah, I think splitting them up, if and when you really dive in further, is the way to go.
Yeah, it's just like watching one or two a week and then coming back to it, and then like within a couple months you're done, and you've seen it and you haven't burned yourself out of it. Because what I'm worried about is that I'll start like blitzing through season 3, and I'll get halfway through and I'll be like, I never want to watch another episode of this show ever in my entire life.
You said burned out, so you actually got in a fire pun after all.
But yes, but on the other hand, when I talk like this, I realize that there are people that this is their entire Superman jam. Like they love these shows. And even the sillier ones are what they enjoy. They enjoy those as much as the ones that I would consider the good episodes. So it's just like this is really from my perspective as a Superman fan and everything that goes into what has made me a fan of the character.
No, I totally understand and can appreciate that. And hey, on a positive note, not to jump to the very end, because at the end of the episode, we'll give our rating of the episode on a scale of 1 to 5. Great Caesar's Ghost. We've retired the fedoras for the color era. We'll give our review. So I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I will say, as someone who has watched all the color episodes, and specifically talking about season 5, for my money, this is the strongest outing for season 5. This episode here.
Okay.
So we have a good, fun one to talk about. In this one, a pair of con men posing as the fireman's friend steal $12,000 from the Daily Planet warehouse while it's ablaze, and Perry White is on the hook for fraud. This aired on April 19th, 1957, written by David Chandler, directed by Harry Gerstad. Our guest cast includes Maurice Hugo as Slim and Dale Van Sickle as Torch. That's our con men duo there. So overall, thoughts on this one?
I think plot-wise, it's very strong. I mean, the idea that you have these two con men that are disguising themselves as basically a pop-up food truck, and they give free donuts and coffee to sinkers, as they call them, to firemen as they're, putting on asbestos suits. I feel really bad for that guy because I think in about 10 years, he's going to have a really big surprise. But I like that part of it. I also liked the little thing of, Perry White's now in peril, not only because he gets kidnapped, but because they think he's embezzling from the company. So like there's parts of this that I feel like drag a little bit, but on the whole, I was just like, this would be like the middle story in an issue of Superman from like the mid 60s. That I would read and go, oh, that was kind of cute, and that's kind of how I felt about the episode just overall. It's just like I didn't hate it. Let me put it to you that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, overall, like I said, especially for season 5, this was a strong one.
You've got a really haunted look on your face when you say that. I just want you to know that.
It's so funny to me, man, because. Look, I'm doing all of these episodes, and my buddy Rich Roney, he's joining me for the majority of the color episodes, but then we're bringing in other guests like yourself. And I feel like a lot of times the guest comes in a lot higher on the episode because and I don't say this to minimize their contribution to the podcast, right? I appreciate everyone doing the homework and coming in, but I just feel like when you sort of parachute in to do an episode or two, I feel like sometimes people come in with a more positive impression than I do. Cause it's like, I'm going through all of them. And like I said, sometimes they can wear on me a little bit, but I feel like in this instance, a bit flipped. So
no, I was actually talking to my wife before we started recording tonight, and I asked her, I go, I wonder if Anthony when he got to season 5, started to regret the decision to do all of this. And not in a negative way, but just in the behind the scenes type of way of producing a podcast like this, where, at the beginning you're all gung ho and everything, and then you're in the thick of it, and suddenly it's just like, what have I done? But I know that that's not a negative thing towards you or towards this show. It's just a general thing of producing a podcast of this nature. Especially, it's like people who do the '60s Batman TV show. Like when they get to season 3, that's a slog. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, fortunately, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew enough about the color era where I wasn't gobsmacked. So that has served me well. But no, I mean, as far as this one in particular, I like that it was a Perry centric episode.
mhm.
Those always stand out. And in fact, the ones
Why
that
am
you
I getting all the Perry ones? It's just like it seems like all the ones that I'm on, Perry's like a major force in them.
I know. I feel, I don't know. I guess I got it in my head that you were a great fit for those episodes or you like those episodes. I don't know. Cause then as I was going through them, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a Perry one. Next week is a relatively Jimmy centric one you're there for. So Perry and Jimmy episodes, I tend to go to you for. But yeah, I like that. I like that Perry got the spotlight. I thought that the con here, the gimmick about these two guys posing as the fireman's friend truck and all of that. I thought it was interesting. I do have a couple of questions, which we'll get to, but I thought it was interesting. My only real gripe is a lot of the plot here ends up hinging on the fact that Perry White never drinks coffee. And I'm sorry, but I got to call bullshit on that because we have
So
some
many
really,
episodes of when he's at the press club where they're bringing him coffee.
yeah, I mean, come on. I know we've talked about this so much, but that Secret of Superman episode from season 1, he's overnight at the press club. He's ordering up black coffee and sandwiches in the middle of the night. Clearly drank coffee then. And then there's the Great Caesar's Ghost episode when he's being driven crazy and the guy delivers coffee to him. Now,
Mhm.
I guess in that instance, he hadn't actually ordered it, but his response wasn't, I don't drink coffee. It was
Yeah.
more, I don't remember ordering this. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And if I'm being generous, maybe after his past experiences in those other episodes, maybe he swore off coffee.
Yeah, everyone's getting a little older as we get into this part of the series, and maybe his doctor has just said you have to lay off the coffee. You can't drink it anymore. I'm sorry. So, and you could have thrown that into the dialogue. It's just like, well, he gave him coffee. Well, the chief's doctor said he can't have coffee anymore.
Yeah, you know I don't drink coffee anymore, Lois. That's
Yeah,
all I needed instead of, you know I never drink coffee. I know, to the people listening to this, I know this is a weird thing to fixate on, and you probably didn't give this a second thought, but that season 1 episode of him ordering up that coffee in the middle of the night has stuck with me for some weird. I think, you know what it is? I think it's just the fact that we were never given an explanation. Like, why was he pounding this coffee in the middle of the night? Like, what? There
yeah,
was no breaking news. Like, what? Why was he awake at this point in time and ordering up coffee? So I think it's just always stuck with me. And then it becomes such a plot point here. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think the bigger question is, um, why do you have the payroll at a warehouse across town? That seems like bad security just in general.
I know. Well, I'm always fascinated too, just by sort of the corporate structure of the Daily Planet and his role in it and everything. It's like, what exactly is the deal? I mean, in this episode, Lois does explicitly say, I think it's Lois who says that Perry owns a lot of shares of the planet.
Yes.
Right. So he's responsible, or at least partially responsible for the warehouse, something to that effect. So it's sort of put in those terms. But yeah, that aspect of it is always fascinating to me.
The Planet is a publicly traded company. This is kind of fascinating. Unless it's one of the, I don't know. Businesses are weird because you used to actually get shares, like physical shares of stock that you owned and had in your files and such. So, yeah, it's the entire structure of Perry White in this show is kind of fascinating because he's got his fingers in a lot of pies. it seems, with this company. It's just like he's not just the editor; he owns it. He's got like he's got like an apartment that he has because he's the editor of the Perry thing. Apparently, he used to be mayor of the city, so I'm sure he had to step down as editor when he was doing that.
Yeah.
Because politicians used to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that struck me is how I judge episodes of The Adventures of Superman is, can I see this being a radio serial? And with this one, I definitely see this could have been an episode, like one of the serials on the radio series in the later part of it, just because it has that kind of the gangster feel of it with these two con men, one of which is an amateur comedian, apparently. Boy, did I feel bad for his partner, because man, yeah, like, you ever work with that guy that just tries to be funny all the time, and it just is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love I mean, we'll get into it more. I love that dynamic between them. But no, that's an interesting way of putting it. Like, could you envision this as an episode of the radio serial? I mean, I guess last big picture thing that I really liked about this is, yeah, I felt the stakes of this, where you have Perry potentially on the hook for fraud, right? Because this payroll money disappears in the middle of this fire. I mean, he knows that's what's happened. But as far as the DA and the insurance company and the arson investigators are concerned, he never put that money in there. So, you feel like, oh, okay, like this is actually, he's really in a tough spot here. So I like that.
Yeah, they created a very plausible reason for him to be suspected of it. It's just like, because you have the one security guard that was injured, and then you have the person that was with him didn't actually physically see him put it in there. So there's he's got means, motive, and opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll go through our play-by-play here. We'll stop along the way. We'll give our thoughts and all that, and it'll be a lot of fun. Two men, Slim and Torch, are driving when they pick up a call on their radio about a warehouse fire. At the Planet, Clark is sneaking off to check on something, i.e. grab dinner, leaving Lois and Jimmy to beard the lion, a.k.a. Face Perry. I'll stop already to say that this opening bit with Clark was interesting because we hear the call about the fire just like these two guys do. And then you see Clark sneaking off and it seems like, oh, maybe he's going to change to, maybe he's heard about the fire as well. But no, it really seems like he was just full on going to grab a bite to eat.
Yeah, the fire department's got this. It's okay. I'm feeling a little peckish, so I'm gonna go grab a sandwich and a cup of coffee.
Yeah, coffee and sandwiches. I'm surprised Jimmy didn't go. That's usually his thing. Jimmy fetches the coffee and sandwiches. This bit about bearding the lion, right? So Lois uses this phrase, and then she goes into the office with Jimmy, and then Jimmy is like, "Oh, Miss Lane, what's that phrase you mentioned He goes a few minutes ago. It was like literally seconds ago, buddy. But all right." But the other thing that made me laugh with that is, well, he asks about this expression, and then Perry explains. He's like, "Oh, it's this old phrase, facing an unpleasant task, right?" And he says to Lois, and he almost seems hurt when he says to Lois, like, "Is that how you feel about working here, talking to me?" And I say to myself, how do you expect these people to feel? You berate them constantly.
Perry, you are you're the dad, but you're not the nicest of people all the time. You're constantly yelling at everybody to do something. So why do you think they would be happy to come see you?
I know it just made me laugh, but an interesting peek behind the curtain, behind the facade of Perry White, as far as what he actually thinks and feels, maybe. All right, then Perry takes the shortest phone call in human history, in which he learns the Daily Planet warehouse is ablaze. I mean, I don't know if this bothered you or not, but he just picks up the phone. He's like, "Hello, what, where?" And he hangs up. He got all that information.
He seemed to be talking before he actually put the phone to his ear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think genuinely what that was is that they were rushing through the scene and they didn't do another, because they don't do second takes with this production. So they just let it go.
They let it go. I mean, we had a field day with Panic in the Sky, and we love Panic in the Sky, but we had a field day in that episode when John Hamilton called Jack Larson's character Jiminy, and they just left that in there. No problem. But it's fine. So I listened to the Boy Meets World rewatch podcast called Pod
Yeah.
Meets World, and one of the things that they talk about all the time is facting, aka phone acting,
Yeah.
and just the rhythm of it and everything. And I had that in my head as I was watching John Hamilton in this scene. It's like you gotta take a beat so that it's believable that you're actually hearing these things. But anyway,
It just occurred to me, and this has nothing to do with the show, that you personally, your generation has an embarrassment of riches of rewatch podcasts from the cast, doing shows for the shows that you grew up with.
yeah, no, it's true, and also, I mean, as someone who came of age in the '90s as a '90s kid, Boy Meets World is a perfect example where
Yeah.
there's just such a swell of nostalgia and so much activity and content surrounding those things that I grew up with. And it's not lost on me. I do think about that. But anyway, so Perry learns here that the warehouse is ablaze and they take off. On site, Lois, Perry, and Jimmy watch the inferno, and Perry remembers that there's $12,000 in the warehouse safe. They clock a vehicle inside the fire line, a coffee and donut truck labeled the Fireman's Friend. And Lois questions how they can profit off of a situation like this. But she quickly shrugs it off and offers to get Perry a cup. This is another thing, Michael, that I have been harping on over the course of doing these color episodes. Lois Lane, 99.9% of the time, not a care in the world.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how dire the circumstances, smile on her face, just merrily rolling along.
Yeah, I also noticed that she is not the intrepid reporter that I think we have been led to believe, especially with the earlier part of the show. It's just she seems to really just literally be there to be a supporting character in whatever's going on with Perry, Jimmy, or Superman.
Yeah,
Like very few, like there's a few that deal with her specifically, but mostly she's just there to give dialogue.
yeah, yeah. And I've complained about this iteration, and I'll complain about it more before we're done. But just that little moment, she's so upset. Like, how could they be trying to make a buck off of a situation like? But then, no problem. Also, I was thinking about this too. Now, I have no firefighting experience personally. I don't know any firefighters personally, so I really don't know of which I speak. And I drink a ton of coffee, so the notion of getting this free coffee very enticing. But I do wonder, would firefighters in the midst of putting out a fire really be seeking out that cup? But maybe they really need it to just keep them going at that point in time.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, are these the firefighters that are taking a break while the next men go in to fight the blaze? Because you can't be in there for, again, I don't know any firefighters either, but I'm assuming that you can't be in there for very long, especially back then when the equipment wasn't as sophisticated as what we have today. And that maybe you do need a break. But I, this is just me. If I'm really, really hot, I do not want a cup of coffee at all, unless it's iced coffee. But even then, I'm not looking for. If I'm feeling hot and overwhelmed and probably a little sick to my stomach, coffee and a sugary donut does not sound like the best of ideas.
I know that's that, and not to nitpick, but I'm just saying maybe some ice water would have
Yeah.
been a more welcome treat for the firefighters at that point in time. And like I said, I say this as someone rarely will I turn down coffee, but I feel like in a situation like that, maybe when I'm in it wearing all that gear and I'm fighting a fire, maybe I would just be looking to cool down at that point. But in
Yeah.
any event, this is the gimmick. So Lois asks if Perry wants to get coffee, and as we had mentioned earlier, Perry remarks, "You know, I never drink coffee." And my problem with that. Jimmy then talks to one of the guys, Torch, the one with all the puns, who explains that he and his partner provide this service free of charge as a hobby. They don't want any publicity about it either, so he turns down a photo opportunity. He explains it's a hot idea and cackles at his pun, and this is the first of many throughout the episode, and it will pay off plot-wise later on, because that's how Clark will put two and two together, but
Yeah.
we get our early instance of it here.
Yeah, I really keep forgetting how much they played up Jimmy on this show.
Oh, yeah.
It's no wonder that Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen got his own comic book series out of this. because they rely a lot on Jack Larson for not only for, I mean, it's not quite like the exposition machine that Jimmy was on Lois and Clark, but he gets a lot to do in every episode that I've watched so far.
Yeah, no. I agree with that. He does carry a lot for sure. Torch then heads inside the blaze where he dons a fireproof suit and cracks the safe. Oh, this is as good a point as any. So, like I said, overall, I think the gimmick here is clever that they're able to get inside the fire line with this truck. The pretense is they're just giving out these coffee and donuts to the weary firefighters. And then they take this opportunity for Torch to don the suit, go inside, steal what they can. And I guess maybe they didn't want to make this, they didn't want to push it too far. Like they're actually starting the fire, right? Like they literally wait until they hear the call and then they seize their opportunity. My only question about this is like, especially when you're talking about a warehouse, you're talking about typically a relatively large space. And then you add to that the fire and danger of a raging inferno. It's like to be able to pinpoint exactly where to go and what to get. And this is not the only, I mean, this is their racket. Like this is what they do and they'll do it again later in the episode. It's just because there's never any talk about any prior casing of any of these places. Right.
Yeah,
so
how do you case a warehouse too? That's the only way you could really case a warehouse is to like get a job at the warehouse for an extended period of time and then just pray that it catches fire someday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, right, unless they're starting them themselves, but like we said, I mean, they're not having them do that. So it's really just these opportunities that they're waiting for. But I don't know. It just seems like they're able to accomplish quite a lot under very difficult conditions.
My other question about it is, how are they not running into firemen?
That too.
And because we don't see any firemen in the actual blazes. And to be fair, we keep seeing the same warehouse over and over again because they're going to keep reusing those sets. But it's just like this. When we start breaking down how the racket works, you're right. It's just like everything just suddenly starts falling apart.
Well, I don't mean to. I don't mean to pick this apart.
No, that's the point of this, though, is to nitpick it because we're going to spend a certain amount of time talking about the 25 to 26 minutes of TV show that we watched. So you got to do something.
No, it's true. I mean, because I guess my point is, it's one thing if they wait until they hear a jewelry store is on fire and they run in and they know they're going to smash the cases and get the jewelry. But a newspaper warehouse, you know what I mean? It's like, why would that? What would they think they would be getting there? I mean, it pays off for them in this case, but
going back to why do you have the payroll in the warehouse across town, except as opposed to where you is that specifically for the people that work at the warehouse? Or is this for the entire daily? It just seems like a really inconvenient, I don't understand really payroll in general. You get a check from a job. Even here, you get a check, you go to the bank, you cash it. Why do are they paying people in cash? Or is this the kind of thing, because I know this is weird. I was thinking of the novel It's Superman by Tom DeHaven. There's a point at the end of that book where Clark gets paid for the photos that his friend took, and he actually goes to somebody who gives him cash right then and there. Is this how it works?
Yeah, these are good questions. I don't know. I don't know. We're never given any answers.
Sorry, I'm so used to direct deposit at this point that the idea of payroll is just beyond what I could conceive of anyways.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's a little tough to square that, but we'll go with it. Meanwhile, Clark returns to the planet and gets the message about the fire. Superman arrives on site, instructs Jimmy to turn on the water, and saves the day with a single hose. I mean, he really... And I'm being a bit flip here, but to your point, it's we don't see any of the other firefighting efforts. We don't see any of the other firefighters' boots on the ground. And it's such a big deal about like, oh, Superman's here. But he grabs one hose and he just goes into the one room where the safe is and he puts it out. And presumably, right, like maybe we're just seeing that little piece of it, but there are larger efforts beyond that. But it just seemed like a quick fix.
Yeah, I just, again, they weren't going to pay for like the B-roll or stock footage of firefighters like running into a burning building for this show. So I guess it is just him going in and squirting a little bit around and hey, everything's done. Yay.
Yeah, to their credit, I like the staging, the setup of this scene outside here where we've got the truck and our trio looking on. And look, they accomplish a lot, I think, certainly with the stock footage that we see of an actual inferno. But even just the lights, the sound effects, it creates the illusion of a commotion.
Yeah.
Right? So credit where credit's due. We'll give them that. The next day, Perry reveals that the payroll was stolen during the fire. But to the DA, insurance company, and arson squad, it looks like fraud. The former crime reporter heads out to investigate.
That I liked. I really, again, I keep getting these episodes where Perry decides he's going to get out from behind the desk and go do something.
Yeah, and this is not the last time that you're gonna join me for one of those.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but no, and look, anytime, and we've had instances, and we've been talking about this and having a lot of fun with Perry's various past jobs and hidden talents and hobbies. I mean, all sorts of stuff. He's an amateur chemist and a magician, and he was the mayor of Metropolis, and he took a degree in law, but he didn't practice, and he was a crime reporter. Like, all that. It never ends with this guy, but it's always fun. But yeah, I like this acknowledgement of his past as this reporter. At their apartment, Slim and Torch are dividing up their haul and explaining their con to the audience, essentially, as they talk about how they put all this together. You know what I liked here? The business about this fireproof suit that Slim invented. And Torch basically asks him, like, why not just patent this and make a fortune?
Yes. Yeah, it's the thing. My co-host over on the Overlook Dark Knight, Andy, is constantly asking why the Flash's villains just didn't patent the cold gun or the heat gun or whatever that they did, and just rake in money from like the Defense Department for creating weapons. It's just like, why didn't you just do that? I mean, it's just like you patent it and then it goes to firefighters and fire departments across the country. They pay for it, and then 30 years later you deal with the mesothelioma lawsuits that are going to come from having an asbestos suit. But still, short-term gains.
Yeah, and Slim says, because that would be honest, or something to that effect, which
the delivery of that line is pitch perfect. Because it was a comedic beat and he nailed it.
Yeah, it was like, I really appreciated that exchange, because the thought I had as I was watching this, it's like, my God, if you've invented this fireproof suit, I mean, you could do exactly that. So I like that it was acknowledged. And I like that his response, yes, it was humorous, but it also spoke to this philosophy that this guy has, right? He's committed himself to a certain way of life. And he's not going to abandon that, even if there's a fortune that awaits him, were he to go legitimate.
He's a criminal. That's his thing. He cares not for the honest buck. So, and then to be fair, he's splitting $6,000 in 1950, late 1950s money. That's you could buy a house with that, like literally buy a house.
Yeah, they're doing quite all right. So maybe he's on the right track here. Perry knocks on the door, explaining that he just happened to see their truck outside. They deny seeing anything suspicious at the fire. Throughout this scene, I really liked the dynamic between Slim and Torch, because Torch is quick to want to kind of push Perry back, so to speak. And Slim is the one who really plays it cool and offers somewhat plausible explanations for things. Because I feel like Torch's approach would have just aroused Perry's suspicions further. But Slim is able to, again, answer these questions in a way where, okay, maybe there's something to this. I like the way this played. I like the dynamic between these two guys.
Yeah, Slim is definitely the brains of the operation.
Yes.
and obviously the one that has put the most thought. I'm sure if we actually had like legit like could ask legitimate questions of how the racket works, Slim would be able to break it down in a way that it's like, oh, okay, I see where your thinking is here. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, he's obviously smart enough to invent a fireproof suit that allows you to walk into an inferno. So,
Yeah, 100%. Perry, proving that he is the sharp crime reporter, notices that Torch isn't wearing the hearing aid he had the night before. But Slim plays it off. So
yep,
first he says, oh, he's a lip reader. But then
yep.
Perry, still sharp, is like, well, but my back was to him. How did he know what I was saying? And then Slim talks about, oh, well, he really needs it when he's outside and there's a lot of commotion. I'm like, this is great. Everything's accounted for.
Yeah,
Pretty tight.
yeah. They've got it. Slim has got it down. He's just gonna really just try to like if Perry had left and not get into the back of the truck, they wouldn't have done anything to Perry
Right.
after this.
Right. I don't know. I forget if you're an Office fan, but there's one of the side characters, Nate, on the show who works at the warehouse. He's one of my favorite bits on the show. It's like he's hard of hearing. He explains his hearing issue, and it's always like, it's not that I can't hear, but if there's a lot of noises, it's hard for me to hear. And that's what I had in my head.
It works.
I always bring it back to the Office. To your point, outside, Perry enters the fireman's friend truck and finds the fireproof suit. And boy, he wastes no time testing it out. He's got that fire lit instantly. But the con men see him and lock him in the truck. Back at the planet, Lois and Clark realize Perry hasn't checked in. Because when Perry left, he put Clark in charge, as he always does. And he says, I'll check in every half hour. I mean, give this guy some room to breathe.
So my thought on that was, what an amazing career Clark Kent has had. He literally walks in the first episode and gets a job with no journalistic experience. And within 5 years, he is the second in command to Perry White.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I think about that a lot. Well, and I've brought this up before because age aside, right? Like Jimmy's been there longer. Like Jimmy has more experience, but it always is coming off as this inexperienced kid. And yeah, Clark, I mean, he really ascended. It's quite the journey.
And as I am a fan of the Earth 2 version of Superman from the late Silver and through the Bronze Age, the fact that version of Clark Kent became the editor-in-chief of the Daily Star, beating out Perry White, as a matter of fact. So I kind of I don't think I'm not the type of person that wants a Superman 59 series, like the continuing really, what are we going to do as the continuing adventures of this Superman? It's
Oh, I want it. I've got ideas.
oh yeah. I would hope you would go to the earlier part of the series as your inspiration and not continuing where it left off. But I like the idea that this is kind of the Golden Age Superman, and since a version of the Golden Age Superman did become the editor of the paper he worked at, it kind of makes sense that eventually this is what Clark might do after Perry retires or, dies.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take this version of the character and you really play it through, yeah, I think eventually he is running this paper.
Yeah, because I mean, the first thing you have to do is you have to introduce a Supergirl, just to spice things up a little bit, but still.
Yeah. So Clark takes off to look for Perry. While Clark is at the fire station asking after the chief, another call comes through. This time, Superman finds Torch inside the burning building, wearing his lead-lined fireproof suit. Again, they've really accounted for everything here. But Superman is forced to make a deal. Let Torch go in exchange for Perry's location. Torch makes a crack about Perry being in the safest place and laughs. Outside, Clark speaks with Slim and Torch at the coffee truck, and Torch claims he served Perry coffee the night before. He remarks that Perry should turn red with embarrassment if he's missing, and Clark recognizes the same laugh he heard inside.
This scene is one of the best examples of how much this show changed over the course of it, because I'm remembering one of the early episodes that you and I talked to where he literally threatened to break every bone in someone's body unless he told him where Perry and Jimmy was.
Yes.
And here he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna back off. Really, it's okay.
And yet again, this business about, well, I have to keep my word. This show, they are you one thing you cannot fault them for. They are nothing if not consistent with
Hmm.
the importance of keeping your word,
Yep.
even especially when you're making a deal with a criminal. The worst thing in
Yeah.
the world you could do is lie to a criminal in order to stop them or save a life. Better to let someone die or a crime to be committed than you go back on your word. Like keeping your word, according to the
I
show, I think morally is like the most important thing.
Because I'm like, the least you could do, Superman, with, your super speed is strip him out of that suit and leave him in the fire for a second and see how willing is to talk after that. But no, we can't do that. He's made a deal and he's got to, like you said, he's got to see it through because his word is his bond.
Yeah.
I prefer the every bone in your body Superman.
Well, because as do I, and that's more unique and and
Yeah,
and effective. And I'm a broken record. I talk about this all the time. So many instances, and that's a perfect one that you cited, where
yeah.
you just can't help but think how season one Superman or Clark would have
Yeah.
dealt with a situation like this.
Yeah, it would have been over right here, like literally right here, right now. He would have figured out where Perry was, and the episode would have ended.
Absolutely. Clark recounts these events to Jimmy and Lois, and Jimmy says that Perry doesn't drink coffee, so Torch's story doesn't check out. Clark realizes what safest place meant, and Superman rescues Perry, who's been locked inside the burned out Daily Planet warehouse. Superman apprehends Slim and Torch at their apartment, displaying some rare super speed in the process.
I loved this. This was my favorite part of the episode when he kept going back and forth. I'm like, wow, that's actually really a good use of Superman's powers.
Yeah, because they open the door, he's there. Then they turn, presumably to go out the window. He's there. They turn back, he's back at the door. Why did they not do this more?
Because it's not like you even have a speed effect, like a sound effect. It's just you literally just turn the camera and you do with editing, you just keep going back and forth.
Yeah, it's funny. I watched it a couple of times. At first, I thought like, oh my god, did they do that? Some sort of trick where I don't know how they would have done it. Where like they're swinging him around real fast. But no, there are regular cuts. It's nothing. There's nothing out of the ordinary for this.
This is not. There is a background projection of Superman flying off as Lois walks into her apartment and Clark knocks on the door.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's so funny because it is exceedingly rare
Yeah,
that you
that
see
that
super speed on this show. The only other time I can even think of is the black and white episode where he's in the office typing
yeah.
at super speed. But that and this, I mean, maybe there are a couple others I'm forgetting at the moment, but so
And,
rare.
and also given the number of times like he speeds off and it takes him forever to get someplace. Where it's just like, wow, they finally remembered that he has different powers, and this is a power that through editing you can do pretty effectively because I thought it was a great gag. It was just like because there's parts of these episodes that I was sitting through, I was like, God, man, this is just so slow and stuff. But no, the look on his face, like the thing that got me through all three of the episodes that you invited me to watch is just the sheer charm of George Reeves as Superman. And just the look on his face as he's like at the window, at the door, at the window, at the door. He's having fun with them.
Yeah, he very much is. No, that look, that charm. I don't think we'd be here doing this
Yeah.
podcast if not for that. I mean, that's the thing, and I think I can't speak for the wider fandom, but man, I mean, I'm in these Facebook groups with a lot of guys who grew up watching the show, and for them, Superman begins and ends with George Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, and going to our shared love of where we came in with the comics, the people that Mike Carlin, John Bogdanove, Roger Stern, these Jerry Ordway, these are guys that lived and died for this show. So it, it's kind of in my DNA to watch it really in a to a certain extent. And it really is like, because sometimes the plots aren't enough to get you through. It really is the characters and the fact that you like these people.
Yes, yes. Finally, Perry arrives. Finally, Perry arrives and can't wait to tell Clark about all of this. Superman says Clark won't be surprised by the story. And that's our episode. Before we give our final rating, is there anything we didn't talk about with this episode that you wanted to?
No, I do weary of gangsters as foils for Superman. But sometimes there's enough of a gimmick that it works. And here, as you said, the fact that Slim and Torch both have like this really kind of double act going on, like they're a good comedy duo. It kind of makes it work, because there's going to be an episode we're going to be talking about down the road where I don't think the gangsters really pull it off.
Agreed. All right. So on a scale of 1 to 5, Great Caesar's Ghosts, how many are we giving this one?
Shockingly, I am going to give it 4. And the reason why I'm giving it 4 is I liked Perry in action, and I liked the speed gag at the end. It's just like I said, this felt like one of the Silver Age stories that I would read, and it would stick with me just because of all the little gimmicks that are through it. So yeah, I'll give this one 4. It's probably the highest.
Right on.
What we're going to talk about tonight.
I think I got to go 4.5.
Oh,
because this
wow.
really is, look, I say this as someone who's watched them all. For season 5 in particular, season 5 has been a little tough going here. So it really is a bright spot in this season. And yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's pretty tight and it holds together, and a few quibbles and whatnot. I mean, the retconning of Perry's coffee habit is probably the most egregious, but that aside, yeah, I mean, I think it works. I guess my last thought, and this just came to me, I wonder if the episode would have been better served by keeping us in the dark a little bit about how these guys are going about their business. Cause right from the jump, we know something's up with them. We see the guy putting on the suit, doing his thing. Like, I wonder if they could have made it a little bit more of a mystery for the audience of like, how exactly, what are these guys doing? And maybe it wouldn't have made much of a difference or wouldn't have been a positive impact, but I do wonder that. But that aside, I think this one holds up.
Yeah, we get that because it's a 25-minute episode, as opposed to more modern shows where this episode would have been like 21 minutes.
Yeah.
So there you lose 4 minutes of them suiting up.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, I thank you so much for joining me. You are going to be back next week as we discuss the Close Shave episode. I think our ratings might be a little bit different for that one. Generally speaking, what would you like to share with folks about your work, your podcasting efforts?
You're probably going to hear more Batman stuff from me in early 2026. Later in the year, especially when you get closer to July, I'm going to be doing something involving Superman's origins, because we're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of Man of Steel by John Byrne, which is pivotal to me. So I'm going to be doing something for that. But having said that, you're going to have like 25 chapters of moving Kryptonian images to go through if you have not listened to it yet. So, and Anthony was on my Superman Doomsday episode. But mainly I'm going to be focusing on getting my Overlook Dark Knight Batman show with my friend Andy Leyland back on track and regular twice a month.
Right on. Well, I hope everyone will check that out. I thank you, Michael. I thank you, audience. Make sure you come back next week. And until then, remember, only Superman can do super things. My love of the TV series Smallville is well documented, and there's one rewatch podcast that's always at the top of my queue. Zach Moore's Always Hold On to Smallville, which continues with more great Smallville and Superman talk now that their series rewatch has concluded. Listen wherever you get podcasts. If you have children and are looking for a family-friendly store, look no further than Aw Yeah Comics. Visit one of their 3 locations, Harrison, New York, Muncie, Indiana, or Skokie, Illinois, and check out awyeahcomics.com for more. Their name says exactly how they feel about it. Aw yeah. This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions, It helps support the show too. Thank you. Another way to support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, is by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your podcast platform of choice, and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Flat Squirrel Podcasts is also home to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey, a long-running weekly series mining Superman's vast mythology across time and media. Subscribe today. Another exciting episode is a Flat Squirrel production. Key art by Greg Schiegel and theme music by Dan Pritchard.